CONLON, and I'm the Marketing Manager for the UK Advertising Exports Group, or UKAEG as we call it for short. Our aim is to support the international growth of the UK advertising and marketing services. I believe the creative industries offers the greatest opportunity to mobilise positive action for the planet. The UK creative industry is leading a global charge against climate change, uniting the industry to make a positive environmental impact and inspiring audiences to act for a sustainable future. At UK Advertising, we have a number of initiatives, such as Ad Net Zero, the programme to get UK advertising to real net zero by the end of 2030. We also have Ad Green, which was launched in September 2020 with two clear aims: to measure advertising production carbon footprints, allowing project teams to understand which activities have the biggest impact, and to empower the industry to reduce emissions and move to zero carbon, zero waste. This year, we have all heard that it has been a year unlike no other for brands, and we have seen a shift in consumer behaviour that has been accelerated due to COVID-19. Consumers are increasingly aware of their role in driving change and are keen to live sustainably. Today, I am delighted to be joined by our expert panellists to discuss how consumer behaviour change may have affected the Marketeers Toolkit.
Hi, my name's Amy. I'm the founder and CEO of Goodloop. Goodloop is a purpose-powered advertising platform. We distribute ads programmatically across premium publishers, and if people choose to engage by giving a little bit of their precious time and their precious attention, then they unlock a free donation funded by the advertiser, and they can choose a charity or good cause to give it to. So we work with brands from McDonald's to H&M to Unilever, helping them deliver on their purpose through their media in collaboration with their consumers.
Hi, I'm Jane Asher. I'm the Chief Exec and founder of 23 Red. We're a creative agency. We set up 20 years ago, very much with purpose as an integral part of the business. But in the last 10 years, it's absolutely become front and central to everything that we do. We deliver marketing solutions that change behaviour for the better across a very broad range of topics, from inclusivity, diversity, sustainability, the environment, health, well-being, and many more, across government, for charities and for brands.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Walsh. I'm one of the co-founders of Digital DETOX. We are a design and technology agency based in London. Everything that we do centres around our three core pillars of technology, people and planet. We aim to make digital products and services that make people more productive and happy, whether that's in their personal lives or whether as employees, their professional lives.
So all of us here on the panel, and probably those who are in the audience, have probably heard about the concept of the 4 Ps in one way or another. For over 60 years, the concept of price, place, product, and promotion has helped marketeers. To be future fit, can organisations rely on only the traditional toolkit, or is it time to implement a new foundation that can serve as a guiding principle, addressing the importance of planet, purpose, people, and profit? So I'm really keen to hear from all of you if you believe that the 4 Ps have changed, and if so, do they replace the 4 Ps that I've just mentioned, or do they complement them? Amy, perhaps you'd like to take this one first.
Okay, so I'm going to dig in on a couple of the Ps and just explore how they've changed, as the entire world has changed in the last 12 months. There are some pretty fundamental impacts that has had on those precious 4 Ps. The first one I would like to explore a little bit is place. Place has changed beyond recognition, right? We are all stuck in our houses. We've all been locked down for 12 months or more. That's a place that none of us wanted to be for this long, but here we are. And so it's drastically changed how we interact with brands. There is no browsing the supermarket. There is no picking up a packet and exploring and touching and feeling the packaging. There's no precedence placed on aisle placement or point of sale. So many of the elements that brands use to connect with consumers don't exist in an online space. And this online shopping boom has been seen across the industry, right? Grocery shopping has doubled in the UK since 2019. Amazon turnover grew 37% last quarter. So across the board, we need to think of new ways to connect with consumers in this online place. And really we've got a matter of seconds within which to do that. You know, it's that scroll, it's the moment that they tap and click and put us in their shopping cart. And so in this context, the emotional connection that we have with consumers becomes increasingly important. And the emotional connection we have with consumers at its very core is about connecting with their core values, connecting with the things that matter most to them at a societal, environmental, political and social level. What are these brands standing for, and how do they align with what I stand for? So I think place has been radically changed, and I think these new P's of purpose and planet, they can really sort of fill some of the gaps that have been created. Another P that I see massive disruption in is price. Our social values massively change how we perceive price, and people are willing to pay a premium for brands that have eco or social values at their core. We see it across industries, right? We see it in Body Shop and Lush in the beauty sector. We see it in Ecover and Method in FMCG. We see it in Patagonia in retail. Goodloop actually worked with Bank of the West, who were using their sustainability criteria as a real point of differentiation. They're a bank that have divested from fossil fuels, and they have a 1% for the planet checking account, which enables consumers to give 1% of their checking balance to the planet. And we worked with them to facilitate a donation to 1% through the planet. And it was fantastic to see consideration, brand trust, and loyalty increase through that campaign. And so these metrics of purchase and consideration, they are massively changed by these new Ps in fundamental ways.
Amy, I think really interestingly has picked up on place and price. I wanted to pick up a little bit on promotion from the one set of the equation and profit on the other. So what we can see is definitely that promotion has become much more tied to what companies are doing to better the world than a very simple statement of the product benefits. And whereas 10 years ago, the consumer expectation was that, particularly amongst younger audiences, that they were demanding a greater focus on the promotion around purpose. There was no evidence really that brands really got it and saw the profit benefit from delivering against it. And I think that's changed quite dramatically in the last few years. And with Unilever, for example, leading the way and their sustainable living plan, what they've seen is that margin is improving across the business overall, and that those brands who have really invested significantly in being the exemplars for sustainable living brands, those brands in that portfolio are growing faster than the brands not in that portfolio. And not just that, but some of the brands are really demonstrably improving and saving lives. You take an example like Lifebuoy, for example. Lifebuoy has a very, very simple purpose. It is about helping parents to ensure their children fall less sick less often. And they've been banging on with that purpose actually since 1894. In India, for example, they have been making demonstrable impact, or had demonstrable impact through work on hygiene in reducing incidents, for example, of diarrhea. Most recently, fast forward to the UK and COVID, they've relaunched the Lifebuoy brand in the UK with a real focus on actually educating children on hand washing regimes and benefits. No great surprise there that you have a brand that's the #1 brand around the world and really making a significant contribution to the performance of Unilever overall.
Everybody knows you've got to have a good product and you've got to be promoting it in the right place, and the price has to be right. But people and organisations, or forward-thinking organisations, are also thinking about people and planet. Now, we've known about companies and organisations treating employees and their workers well, and people or organisations who don't do that can lose business. And the same is going to be happening, I feel, and we feel, with planet. If organisations are not treating the planet well, then customers may also be choosing with their feet. So it's about choice now. There is a lot of choice out there for consumers to choose between one brand or another. And when all things are equal, if there is an organisation who's treating people better and the planet better, then people may be choosing those organisations. So yes, I think it's changing, but I think there's a lot of organisations who still aren't thinking that way.
And for those organisations that perhaps aren't feeling that way at the moment, as from everything that we've just said, why now? Why should they act fast now?
Just read the headlines, really. We're in the worst economic slump for 300 years, and we've got the climate crisis around the corner. There is an absolute imperative, a need to act now. But there's not just a need, there's a massive opportunity too for businesses and brands to act now and to really help to build back better. And I mean, that's a phrase that was actually coined, I think, after the 2007 crash. But I think what we're seeing now is a much greater depth to what we mean by build back better. And that means build back fairer, build back stronger, build back greener, really giving, as I say, a great need, an imperative and an opportunity for brands to act now. Of course, the flip side to that is that the consumers are continually demanding that brands step up to that plate. We are a recent survey by Xeon Group in the US amongst 8,000 global consumers and 75 companies and brands revealed that consumers are 4 to 6 times more likely to buy from, to trust, to champion, to defend companies with incredibly strong brand purpose. I mean, expectations have soared of corporations, and they have to step up to the plate. They have to play a leadership role, not just through the pandemic, but to secure economic stability and to tackle some of the great divides that we have going forwards.
Well, as Jane says, we need to do it now. And I think there's been this really fantastic increase in the sense of social responsibility over the last 12, 18 months, both at an individual level and at a corporation level. And Jane has already touched on both, but I just wanted to reflect a little bit on the drivers behind those changes. From an individual level, well, in the UK, 1 in 5 adults volunteered during the pandemic. I mean, that's sort of war level efforts of collective good, this sense of responsibility, of community, of humanity. Like those things were so easily forgotten in the past, but have become such a crucial part of what we've all been through. And I also think that this time of COVID is scary. It's really shook our false sense of security. It's made our differences feel smaller. It's made us feel more united. And this is, I think Bill Gates captures this perfectly when he says that COVID is, in quotes, really easy in compared with the climate crisis. Like, this was a trial run. This was our practice go. And everybody is getting this sense that we need to buckle down. We need to focus on the climate crisis as an issue that is 10 times more severe potentially than what we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months. So that has really flowed into the corporate world as well. Over $7 billion was donated from corporations to support COVID over the last year, and that is 2/3 of all philanthropic donations to COVID. So 2/3 of all the funding to support this pandemic have come from businesses. That's complemented by alcohol brands using their supply chains to create hand sanitizer, and fashion brands creating PPE. Like, the role of corporations in society has had a light shone on it in a way that it hasn't before, and the gaps that corporations fill. This has increased consumer expectation for brands to take action, for brands to contribute. And so this is a trend that is incredibly positive, incredibly exciting, and I think it clearly illustrates why now.
So, climate change is here. Sir David Attenborough says that, we've got 10 years to avert a climate crisis. This is the decade of action. We are seeing, record temperatures in the Antarctic. We're seeing news of flooding, wildfires in Australia. This is here. It is happening, and we need to be doing everything as individuals and as organisations to tackle this. We can do that on many, many different levels. And that's what, we're firm advocates of, is helping organisations to do what they can from a digital perspective. So when you are transforming digitally, you can be making a positive impact to the environment, but we also need to be thinking about how our digital footprint is as environmentally friendly as possible. So what would we do? So, things like leadership, having a leadership that visibly and vocally supports sustainable design and development is really, really important. We need to be starting at a team level and then making an impact of whatever you have got responsibility for. We need to be educating teams so that they understand the impact of their different design and development choices and the impact that has. And we need to be measuring and analysing so that we know what good looks like and we're able to see that we're actually making improvements.
So we've talked about consumers. Is there anything else that you think brands need to be aware of when we talk about the why now and why act fast?
Well, I think, as employees, people also want to be working for an organisation which is making a difference, that's positively impacting society. And we've certainly noticed that employees are interested in working at Digital Detox when we are focusing on creating sustainable digital products and services. They want to be working in a place where the culture supports good work and doing the right thing. And so brands also need to be thinking about that. One aspect is consumers and consumers voting, but also employees are voting with their feet. They will potentially move towards organisations who are thinking responsibly, who are making a change to society. It's not just about how much, a salary. It's actually about the impact that they can have in their workplace.
I couldn't agree more, Charlotte. I mean, people often say working at 23 Red, you could cut a 23 Redder like a stick of rock. They are all totally motivated by the impact of the work that they do, rather than the creative product. That's not to say the creative product is unimportant. Of course, it's critical to actually helping us to achieve that behaviour change. But the sole motivation for the people working with us is the impact of the work. And we see that in terms of our very, very low levels of staff turnover and our ability to recruit and retain staff.
So we're saying that the 4 Ps that I mentioned at the start, they're not redundant. They're still here. However, the 4 Ps need to evolve in order to sort of address consumer behaviour now. We've addressed the why. Brands need to act fast. They need to act now. It's the decade of action. So for anyone who's in the audience, who's wondering where to start, what advice would we give them? What should they start doing tomorrow? Charlotte?
I think the key thing would be to start now and to start talking within your organisation about what impact you can have and what difference you can achieve. Customers are looking at and choosing brands according to how responsible they are for people and for the planet. Look at Decathlon. They are looking at their supply chain, and they are putting ratings onto their clothing and product of their own brand products, showing the energy rating and intensity of their supply chain for a product. That is giving customers the choice to buy that product or another one, and that transparency is really, really important. We have energy ratings on appliances or when buying a house, and customers are choosing according to those principles.
So I think I've got two tips, really. One of which is get going, you cannot afford to wait. And the other of which is paying lip service isn't enough. What you do needs to be grounded in substance. And just looking at the first of those points, I know that some brands have some anxiety about declaring a point of view, about aligning with a cause because of the risks. And there have been some very high profile instances of that. But Keith Weeds, the president of the Advertising Association, actually was incredibly eloquent on this point. And he says that brands really need to be encouraged to look outside of their business and to ask themselves whether look at the trends and to ask themselves whether the trends are enduring and whether they're going to get bigger. And if yes, they cannot afford not to start on their journey. To the second point, purpose doesn't need to be earth-shattering. What it does need to do or be is to be very clearly aligned to the brand's DNA. And a couple of examples of that that we've been working on recently, for example, with Disney on the childhood obesity agenda. Disney has a very well-honed long-term healthy living strategy and clearly holds a very dear place in the hearts of families globally. A brand that can bring real inspiration to a topic that can be potentially quite dry and quite difficult actually for parents to get kids to get engaged with the behaviours that will actually ultimately result in tackling behaviour. So a perfect coming together using the entertainment values of Disney and the credibility of Public Health England, and really importantly, a tangible offer to help people to get on that journey, changing behaviours, encouraging children just to do 10 minutes more physical activity. A programme now in its 8th year, which has had a demonstrable impact on children's physical activity levels in England. So I guess, yeah, those are my 2 top tips, really. Don't wait and get on that journey and make sure that you deliver with real substance. So align to the brand's DNA and offer real tangible benefit to your customers.
I want to take it back to the fundamental 4 Ps, right? Just where we started, and think about what the role of a brand is. Why build a brand? And really there's 2 elements. Firstly, it's about trust, right? It's a badge of honor. It's a statement of intent. But secondly, it's about self-expression. The brands we wear, the labels we wear, the businesses we buy into, they are an expression of our own values. They are what we want to portray to the world. That's the role that brands play in consumers' lives ultimately. And so when thinking about purpose and when thinking about these new 4 Ps, I would encourage brands and businesses to think about how you can be a facilitator for consumers to act on their social values. There are some lovely examples of this. So Waitrose is an online grocery retailer, and we've talked already about the massive boom in online retail, but they've actually created a space within their online store which only features B Corps and ethical businesses. So they are enabling consumers to select and make their purchase decisions, as Charlotte already alluded to, but Waitrose are facilitating that decision making. They are making it easy for consumers to do good, and that consumer, they come away from that experience feeling positive about Waitrose as an effect. And that actually brings me on to the second example, which is B Corporations. B Corporations is a fair trade stamp of business that helps consumers identify the businesses who are most committed to prioritising purpose, people, and planet. It's baked into their legal articles of association that they must equally weight profit with some of those social values. And that is something that really helps consumers when they're trying to make those ethical decisions. It's also something that we really focused on when we were building Goodloop, is this idea of democratizing purpose and involving the consumer in that journey. So when you see a Goodloop advert out in the wild, the brand will fund a donation if you engage with their advertising, but you, the consumer, you get to choose which charity that brand funds. You get the final say on where that money goes. What are the causes that are most important to you? And that moment of collaboration between a brand and a person, that is purpose at its most powerful.
It's very clear to me that this is a big conversation and we could talk for a lot longer on it. But in order to help wrap up or to summarise, in one sentence, what would you say to people in the audience that they need to start doing?
For me, it's get going now. You really can't afford to wait, and paying lip service isn't enough. What you do needs to be absolutely grounded in brand substance.
For me, it would be start acting, but talk to people, educate people within the organisation so that they are aware of what they can do, the impact that they can have, and start to measure and analyse so that you can actually see that you're making a difference.
And I would say that purpose without impact is just hot air. So think about what charities or third sector organisations you can partner with that will bring authenticity and action to your purpose.
Thank you all. I would like to just say a big thank you for joining me today on this conversation. It's something that I really, really care about, and I'm delighted that we can sort of share our insights with others. We hope that you've all taken away some valuable insights today. For me, it's no question that technology has surely changed the marketplace since the birth of the original 4Ps concept over 60 years ago. But when it comes to customer business relationships, the main principles haven't exactly changed all that much. Customers want to feel valued by businesses, and in turn will support businesses who provide value to their lives with their products or their services. To borrow from the panel today, brands need to step up to the plate and act fast. This is the decade of action.